In a previous video, we went over the entire JURA Tempest Federation, learning about its background, inhabitants, government, economy, and relationships, leaving only the military of the nation untouched. So as requested, today we'll be taking a complete look at the military power of the JURA Tempest Federation and find out just how strong they really are. It goes without saying that there will be spoilers for the story, so here's a spoiler warning just in case, and if you enjoyed the video, feel free to give it a like or subscribing to the channel for more Tensura content in the future. Now, I'm sure we all know that before the formation of the JURA Tempest Federation, it was only a small goblin village that consisted of only goblins that served as their main fighting force. But after the confrontation with the direwolves and they submitted to Rumpai, the village was able to increase their forces, even forming the Goblin Riders, one of the earliest military units in Tempest. Later, they were able to recruit the help of the ogres, and after they evolved into Kijins, it greatly improved their fighting force, allowing them to even challenge the 200,000 orcs of the Orc Disaster. However, that wasn't all, because after the defeat of the Orc Disaster, the orcs, lizardmen, and goblins that participated in the battle joined Tempest as well, further increasing their military might. It was also at this point in time that Rumpai founded the JURA Tempest Federation, and he appointed Benimaru as the Minister of Defense and the Commander-in-Chief of their army. Hakuro was also appointed as Benimaru's military advisor during times of war and provide military training to the army. As for the command structure of the Tempest army, Rumpai is the supreme leader and he has the highest authority over the army. And following that is Benimaru, the Commander-in-Chief. He has the second highest authority during times of war, but any order he gives can still be vetoed by Rumpai if he wanted to. As for the army itself, it is divided into separate military units, and Benimaru has authority over all of them except for two. More on that later. So the basic structure for these military units are simple. There's a corps led by a single commander, and they are normally paired with a supervisor to provide aid or guidance. Within the corps itself, they are made up of two separate divisions, but that isn't always the case. That said, let's go over the different corps that make up the Tempest army, starting with the first corps. The two divisions under the first corps are the Goblin Riders and the Green Numbers. The commander of the corps is Gopta, and the Goblin Riders were appointed as the captains for the corps. Hakuro would serve as the supervisor of the first corps, but the white promoter Tensura was also one of the supervisors for a short period of time. Now, the Goblin Riders were the first military force of Tempest, and it was initially led by Rigger, but command of the unit was later given to Gopta instead. They have a force of 100 members, and they specialize in fast-paced ground combat, flanking enemy positions, and using hit-and-run tactics. Their threat levels range from rank C+ to B-, but after Rumpai awakened as a true Demon Lord, they managed to acquire the extra skill Unify, essentially allowing them to fuse with their Tempest Wolves into a single entity. Their threat levels increased to rank A-, and in their Unified form, the threat levels would be a solid rank A. As for the Green Numbers, they were initially a division comprised of 4,000 hobgoblins assigned to Benimaru, and they specialized in ground combat. They all possess a threat level of rank B. Because they were attached to Benimaru, they gain an affinity towards the fire element, acquiring skills like fire manipulation and thermal fluctuation resistance. The Green Numbers was later put in the first corps during the Eastern Empire attack, and their numbers had increased to 12,000, with the original 4,000 serving as officers, leading the new members in teams of 3. The threat level of the 4,000 remained the same, while the new members had a threat level ranging from C to D. Then we have the second corps, the backbone of the Tempest army, which is led by Gel, with the yellow Primordial Carrera serving as the supervisor. The yellow and orange numbers are the two divisions that are under the second corps, with members of the yellow numbers acting as the captains. The yellow numbers initially comprised of 5,000 high orcs that used to be the elites of the Orc Disaster army, but later it became only 2,000, although it was not explained why. They mainly specialize in defensive tactics and serving as tanks for other units, but when there isn't war, they mostly handle the construction projects of Tempest. After Rumpai awakened as a true Demon Lord, all members received the skill Steel Strength and Iron War, while officer class members had acquired the extra skill Earth Manipulation, allowing them to mold and alter the terrain, which is good for digging traps or trenches. Additionally, they also learned the extra skill Body Armor, and they even possess a unique grade equipment called the Chara Shield, which is made from the scales of Charybdis. They are also the only group that can access the stomach subspace that Rumpai uses, and all members have a threat level of rank B+ by the time the Eastern Empire invaded Tempest. As for the orange numbers, it's a division comprised of new high orcs that join as soldiers, and they have a total of 35,000 strong with a threat level of rank C-. They mainly help the yellow numbers in defense, but only 15,000 would be involved with combat, while the remaining 20,000 provided logistical support to the army or served as military engineers. The third corps is next, with Gabiru serving as the commander, and he is assisted by the purple Primordial Ultima. The Hiryu and the blue numbers are the divisions under the third corps. They are the aerial cavalry unit of Tempest, responsible for providing air support to ground troops and conducting air raids on the enemy. Starting with the Hiryu, they are a flying unit consisting of the original 100 Dragoners that follow Gabiru, and they will later receive gifts from Rimuru's Harvest Festival that allowed them to awaken their dragon blood. This caused them to obtain the skill Dragon Warrior Transformation, allowing them to acquire forms similar to dragons, increasing their offensive and defensive capabilities. They also acquire long-range attacks in the form of either Flame Breath or Thunder Breath. Now, in their normal state, all members possess a threat level of rank A-, while in their dragon mode, their threat levels all reach the rank of A. That's why they were considered to be the strongest unit in Tempest for a time until the arrival of the black numbers. As for the blue numbers, it is a newly created division that has a total of 3,000 members, and they comprise of lizardmen that joined because they wanted to become the subordinates of Gabiru. Their combat abilities put them at only rank C+, and although they are just normal foot soldiers, their true strength lies in their ability to fight while riding wyverns. The wyverns themselves were initially captured by Milim to be domesticated, and later it was the responsibility of the blue numbers to raise more of them. The wyverns all have a threat level of rank B+, so when paired with the lizardmen, their combat abilities will increase. The 4th Corps was created during the Eastern Empire invasion and is led by Benimaru himself. Within the 4th Corps, the two divisions are the Kurenai and the Red Numbers. The Kurenai, or also known as the Red Flame, is a ground combat unit specializing in offensive tactics. It is comprised of 300 volunteer hobgoblins that looked up to Benimaru and had wanted to work under him. They are considered to be Benimaru's elite personal guards, with Godboa serving as their captain, and during times of peace, they work in the Ministry of Defense as the general staff. After Rimuru's awakening into a true demon lord, the Kurenai all evolved from hobgoblins to ogres because of Benimaru's desire to continue the ogre lineage. They now have a threat level of rank A-, but there were some with rank A threat levels as well. For the Red Numbers, this division was originally called the Mixed Margin Corps, and they have a fighting force of around 30,000. It was mostly composed of margins that were taken as prisoners after Claymore was defeated. They were initially working for Gel, but Benimaru borrowed and picked out the ones that were good at fighting. The leftover numbers in the division were filled with volunteers that live in the Great Jura Forest. The majority of the members have a threat level of rank B, but there were a few of them that were over rank A as well. The Volunteer Corps is another one that was created during the Eastern Empire invasion and is led by the Lightspeed hero Masayuki Honjo. This unit is completely made up of human adventurers and mercenaries residing in Tempest and neighboring countries. They are volunteers that wish to protect Tempest, and they have a total of 20,000 members. The unit is mainly responsible for maintaining public order and help during evacuations, so of course Masayuki with his unique skill was the perfect choice to lead them. Moving on, we have the intelligence unit Dark Shadow, which is led by Soe. It consists of 100 members with Sokka as the leader and her 4 Dragonute subordinates acting as the commanding officers. The rest of the members were recruited through secret negotiations with other nations for their convicted criminals or political prisoners. Because not many people know about this unit, their fighting abilities varied, but according to Rimuru, all the members possess at least a threat level of rank A, while there were a couple of special A and even S rank individuals. Their unit mainly specializes in espionage, infiltration, intelligence gathering, and assassinations. Now those were the ones under the jurisdiction of Benimaru, and I did mention there are 2 units that aren't, so here are the 2, Shion's personal squad and the Black Numbers. For Shion's personal squad, there are actually 2 separate divisions. The first one is called the Yomigaeri, and they serve as Shion's royal guards, but their main purpose is to be Rimuru's bodyguards and solely existed to sacrifice themselves for him. They were created after the Farmer Kingdom attack from the resurrected hobgoblins that were killed during the attack. The unit has a total of 100 members, and after they were resurrected, they all obtain new powers. They possess the extra skill Perfect Memory and Self-Regeneration, allowing them to retain their memories inside their astral bodies even if their physical bodies are destroyed, and just using regeneration to regain their damaged bodies, making them essentially immortal. Initially, the Yomigaeri members only have a threat level of rank C, but after enduring the training from Shion, they managed to raise their threat level to the rank of B+. As for the second division working under Shion, they are actually an unofficial unit created by the 3 sons of Demon Lord Dagriel. They call themselves Shion's personal bodyguards, but it's actually just a glorified fan club. Although just a fan club, their numbers were actually quite impressive, with a total of around 10,000 members consisting of humans and monsters. However, not much information is known about them, so their fighting abilities may vary, but there are a few rank A and special A individuals within the unit. Now for the Black Numbers, they are considered to be the strongest unit in Tempest, and they are under the leadership of the Black Primordial Diablo, and they only take orders from Diablo or Rimuru himself. Funny enough, Diablo created this unit with the guise of finding powerful servants that would serve his master Rimuru, but in reality, he just wanted someone that he can throw all his work to so he can spend more time with his master. As for what they do, they basically handle everything that Diablo himself deems as mundane, like overthrowing governments, setting up schemes, gathering intelligence, domestic work, and so on. The Black Numbers has a total of 711 personnel with Diablo as the leader, followed by the co-leaders Tensura, Carrera, and Ultima. Under the 4 primordial demons are the demon officers, Venom who works for Diablo, Moss and Shion who works for Tensura, Veyron and Zonda who works for Carrera, finally Agera and Esprit who works for Ultima. And below the 7 demon officers, each brought with them 100 greater demon soldiers. Their threat levels all range from rank A to rank S, further proving their status as the strongest unit in Tempest. That said, I would also like to mention a special group within Tempest that can be counted as part of their military string as well. That is obviously the Labyrinth that Ramiris created, because this is probably one of the most important locations for Tempest during wartime. This is because they are able to transfer the entire capital of Tempest into the lowest floor of the Labyrinth and have the inhabitants of the Labyrinth protecting it, making it sort of like a fortress with multiple defensive barriers. Acting as their defense, we have the 10 Lords of the Labyrinth, the executive and strongest fighting force in the Labyrinth. But if you want to know more about them, feel free to click on the upper right corner for a previous video I made on this subject. But basically, here are the members: the 99th floor Inferno Dragon King Eurus, the 98th floor Frost Dragon King Zephyrus, the 97th floor Thunder Dragon King Notos, the 96th floor Tremor Dragon King Boreas, the 90th floor Nighthead Kumara, the 79th floor Insect Queen Apito, the 70th floor Immortal King Adalman and Death Paladin Albert, the 60th floor Ghidorah, and finally the Overseer of the Lords of the Labyrinth, the Insect Kaiser Zagion. There were also other powerful individuals staying inside the Labyrinth as well, like Beretta, Trainee along with the other Dryads, Ifrit, or also known as Karis, Adalman's Death Dragon Venti, and how can we forget about our residential Whip Dragon JURA Tempest, the greatest presence within the Labyrinth. Additionally, there's also the Western Reserve Force, and I don't think this counts as being part of the Tempest military, but it is led by Tensura, so I'll give it a mention. This unit has a total of 150,000 members, making it the largest unit commanded by Tempest. Although in name it belongs to the Western Nation Council, but since Tensura has taken complete control of the council and the army is funded by Tempest, it's basically owned by Tempest at this point. On the surface, their role is to help maintain public order, provide disaster relief, and support or help other countries during emergencies. But secretly, it was established to assist the engineering unit of Tempest, providing logistical support and make it easier for Rimuru to gain access into the Western nations. So that's basically all the military units controlled by Tempest, and if you had to choose which one of these are the ones that you would like to join or is your favorite, let me know in the comments down below. Now, there are some major battles that the JURA Tempest Federation participate in, and I would like to briefly mention them. The two most well-known battles are with Demonlord Claimant and the Eastern Empire. The confrontation with Claimant was probably the first and rare instance where a fully formed Tempest army went to war. During the war, a force of almost 10,000 was sent into battle, which included 100 Goblin Riders, 300 of the Kurenais, 4,000 of the Green Numbers, 5,000 of the Yellow Numbers, and 100 of the Hiryu. The Tempest army was also reinforced by 10,000 beastmen from the Kingdom of Eurozania. In the end, Claimant's army of over 30,000 was easily overwhelmed by the Tempest army, and they even captured his castle in the puppet nation Gistav. For the conflict with the Eastern Empire, it was the largest in terms of troop numbers because Tempest actually deployed their largest force yet, with around 100,000 troops, which consisted of the 1st, 2nd, 3rd, and 4th Corps, along with Soe and Shion's forces, the Volunteer Corps, and finally the Black Numbers, against the 1 million force of the Eastern Empire. Although the Eastern Empire had more advanced technology and superior numbers, the battle ended with minimum casualties on the side of Tempest, while the Eastern Empire forces were completely wiped out. The second battle with the Eastern Empire, however, was different because it was more or less a battle between the executives of both sides, so not much can be said about it. The latest conflict that Tempest took part in is mainly the battle with Phantom King Feltway, but again, this conflict mostly involves the executives of Tempest rather than their army, and as of making this video, the conflict is still ongoing, so we'll just have to wait for its eventual outcome in future volumes. So with that, let's go over some of the foreign relations that the JURA Tempest Federation has. Because although they possess a strong military, allies are still needed, and they indeed have official treaties with many nations. But since I talked about this in my previous video on Tempest, I'll just briefly go over them. Now, one of the very first nations to enter a treaty with Tempest is the armed nation of Dwagon, promising to send help to each other when needed. There are two occasions when military aid was sent to Tempest. The first one was during the battle with Charybdis, and the second one was after the Falmer Kingdom was defeated. Tempest likewise also has sent military aid to Dwagon when the Eastern Empire invaded. Moving on, the Bloomin Kingdom also has a treaty with Tempest, although the only instance they sent a fighting force was when the Falmer Kingdom invaded Tempest, but sadly when Fused arrived, the battle had already ended. Tempest later formed a treaty with the Sorceress Dynasty Sarian, but military aid was never mentioned. Anyways, the Kingdom of Eurozania has a non-aggression pact with Tempest, and they will work with the Tempest army to fight Claimant's army gathering in Milim's territory. Speaking of Milim, she and Rimuru are besties, so you get the idea. As for the Eastern Empire, after they were defeated and Masaki Honjo ascended as the new emperor, war with them officially ended. The Western Nations Council, like I said, was completely controlled by Tensura, and they literally just handed all the responsibility of defending their nations to Tempest. Finally, this is basically a global joint defense force because when Phantom King Feltway declared war on the world, Gi Crimson decided that Rimuru and his forces would take on the job of reinforcing all the other demon lords of the Octagram. So yeah, they are essentially all working together with Tempest being the ones sending help. Anyways, that's all the information I managed to compile regarding the military string of Tempest. Honestly, conventional warfare in the series ended by the time we reached the second battle with the Eastern Empire. This is because afterwards the power scaling of all the characters were raised, so that basically anything below the rank of Special A would just become cannon fodder. Like Ramiris said, in the Tensura world, quality beats quantity, so everything shifted to become more focused on the individual battles of characters instead of large armies. That said, I personally don't mind the change, but I still hope to see some of the Tempest army getting a chance to fight again in upcoming volumes. So yeah, this has been a comprehensive guide on the military string of Tempest. If I missed anything or made any mistakes, feel free to correct me in the comments down below. If you enjoyed the video and want to see more, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel and hit that notification bell for more Tensura and other anime content in the future. Thanks for watching, and as always, stay safe everyone.